So one of the things that has been on my thoughts for the last several days has been the question concerning curiosity. And the question is anyone curious anymore? Um, as a child, my inquisitive mind never rested at all. I sought answers from those within the community I deemed as elders and asked a lot of questions of them, even of my parents, because I felt that they held a lot of wisdom of the ages. I used to love sitting at the feet of the elders and just hearing their stories because I thought they had a lot of answers. So when I would ask questions of them, I got a lot of pushback. And it was, well, just because, or it is what it is. And then those within the church, their responses was, well, that's just God's way. And now as an adult, I'm looking back on those conversations and I'm like, well, tell me that you really don't know without telling me that you don't know. And there's no slight at them or anything like that, but that was just how they responded to a lot of things. And what I realize now, even more so as an adult, is that my childhood curiosity, it brought an uneasiness within the community and talking to the adults because a lot of them had their curiosity squelched out of them or even bullied out as a form of conditioning to society. Their silence wasn't malicious or anything, but it was inherited. So fast forwarding to where we are now, I know with certainty that we are innately curious people and we are meant to challenge norms. As human beings, we are purposed to resist full confinement to one way or even one way of existence because that's not who we are. We are designed to adapt, to bend and be flexible with the ebbs and flows of life. Because consider this, for example, a seed that pushes out of its shell to birth a beautiful flower, or even a human fetus that grows within the enclosure of its mother's womb, announcing its arrival through the pressures of contractions and birth pains. In both cases, both of those instances, conflict is not an enemy at all. It's an announcement, basically. It is the proof that we are resilient. It is the grit that we did not know that we possessed until we are asked to use it. We too are meant to push through enclosures, and curiosity is how we do it. And for me as an artist, I love being an artist. I loved learning about, through history, the great civilizations and cultures that were built. But my mind was always racing because I always had questions because it felt like there were still a lot of holes not being filled. So I dug deep, I asked more questions. And when we think about the intersection of geography and history, we learned of Pangea for those who remember that word, where Pangea was like a major supercontinent that once held all of Earth land before the tectonic plates start shifting and dividing the Earth to the continents that we know of them today. And from that division emerged groups of people who were able to build civilizations that we now study today. But the questions for me that came up through all of this was that, okay, so how many beginnings did we really have? That was my question. What theological stories align with the rise and falls of the many great empires. But more specifically for me as a woman, why is it that the woman is the most feared but most revered figures across cultures? But I had more questions, but those were some of the major top ones for me. And these were not distractions. They were basically still are, invitations to the mind doing what it does and what it was created to do. I remember going in the stacks at the university and now bringing it to the, screen of where we are. There was once a time when we used knowledge and it required effort, and that effort produced depth. Libraries were once organized through the Dewey Decimal System, cataloged by groups of 10, and then broken down even further into sections that led to multiple worlds. And the reason that I know this, the nerdy side of me, because one of my first full-time jobs, I'm gonna say full-time. No, it wasn't full-time. One of my first jobs, though, as a teenager, was working in a library. So I'm very, very familiar with the Dewey Decimal System and all that it brings about. But my first job, as I mentioned, is working in the library. When I freely gave of myself to the printed knowledge, to the rows and rows and rows of printed knowledge. And it gave back to me in kind because I learned so much and was introduced to a lot of new things. I wrote research papers, and then also we had to learn how to cross-reference to get up to build our bibliographies. We searched, and in that searching, we learned something more than just facts. We learned how to think, how to use this brain of ours and use it critically. But now we're in an age that many often call the age of what is it? The age of anti-intellectualism. That's it. Where knowledge is more accessible than ever before. And with this accessibility, there's less curious. We're less curious. Most people have never stepped foot in the library. Most people, in the world is this? Most people don't even know where their local libraries are. Like they walk past them every day and they have not experienced the joys that can come from a library. Okay, really, seriously, it's a lot. They are unable to experience the joys found in the library because they've traded the joy of discovery for the convenience of an answer. We've moved from asking elders questions and sitting there at their feet and learning stories, learning recipes, to now asking Google. From exploring our neighborhoods and meeting strangers to telling Siri to find us the fastest route to the nearest ATM. We no longer we no longer allow ourselves to be inquisitive, to get lost, because being lost means being uncomfortable. It means that we're disrupting our schedules because we've been so conformed and confined to be structured and disciplined. And you have to be on time for this, you have to do this a certain way and be at this specific spot at a certain time. And in protecting our comfort, we have surrendered our curiosity. Now, when I think about it, curiosity is not the most comfortable thing because it requires us to sit with uncertainties, to pursue questions that we get answers that may not be so cut and dry or black and white. Um, it allows us to wonder without a guaranteed destination. But the return on that investment, the investment of curiosity, is extraordinary. It enables us to discover new paths. it introduces us to strangers who eventually become long-term friends. It reminds us that life is not a transaction. Life is meant to be felt. It's a gift that we experience, and we experience with our whole selves. When we stop asking questions, we don't just lose knowledge, we lose ourselves. So here's a thought. Here's my invitation to you. And it's nothing major, no grand gesture or anything like that. It's a small, courageous act. Put down your phone for a moment. Something simple. Not forever. Don't put it down forever, because if Grandma Joan call and you can't reach it, she gonna panic. But put your phone down for a moment, just long enough to remember what your mind feels like when it wanders freely. And I know this may be scary for some people, but think about the passions that you had as a child. Think about those passions and those things that you wanted to do as a child. And you abandoned them because life got too freaking busy. Pick up a book that you set down. Walk a street that you never walked before. Be careful though. Don't just walk down any alley or any street. I'm not telling you to do some crazy shit. Walk down a street that you never walked down before, and observe what is happening, what's around, the sounds. Take into consideration the many things that is going on around you. Listen to the birds. They've been singing the same tune since before civilization built up walls around us. Walls so tall that we cannot see over and be connected to our neighbors and connected to people who will provide perspective on so many different things. Let your feet feel the earth. The ground beneath you is not just soil, it's a foundation of the very stories that we're told, every culture that we built, every question ever asked. Curiosity is not a childhood trait that we just outgrow. It is a human necessity that we are trained to suppress. And it is always waiting for us. Very patient, very persistent, and very, 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 very ready. But the moment we decide that we're no longer too busy, too certain, or too afraid to ask, what if there's more? It'll be there waiting for us. Because the simple thing is, there is always more. Always. The question is simply, are you willing to look for it?